Hello and welcome to the Undercenter podcast. Today I am your host. My name is Jake and we've got a fantastic show. I'm of course joined by Dara and Fionn. If you want to follow us, you can follow us on Twitter at Undercenter Pod, the same on Instagram, Twitch, YouTube. You can find us everywhere. Today we are talking Dan's dynasty dealings. We did scour the internet looking for a dynasty expert, but we landed with our friend Dan, who some would say an expert at that, and I think that would just be himself. Now, Dan, let us know. You are commissioner of many leagues here, and just let us know what would be your job in running these leagues.
Basically, a dynasty league is it's like for your average fantasy football fan. It's the same concept. You know, you're getting players, they're scoring your points, you're shouting at the screen, you're angry at everything you're losing, and you're crying every Sunday, just like me. But with a dynasty league, you get to do it with the same players for all your life, for all eternity. You draft your startup, you go 28 rounds deep, your bench is massive, it's 20 deep bench, normal format. But then the next year comes along and you've still got the same crappy players on your team for the rest of your life. You will get to draft new rookies every year, but if you're like me, you pick Darius Geis in the first round, and we all know how that one went. But my basic job as a commissioner is to, like any commissioner, you make sure it runs well, you make sure you get your draft picks, you pay up, and you get your prize money. With Dynasty, it's a little bit more intense where you have to watch rookies, you have to watch this, you have to pretend to know what you're doing. But the basic concept of this league I'm trying to set up is I wanted to create multiple dynasty leagues that compete against each other. So the aim of this league is to eventually have it at 20 separate dynasty leagues, which will all compete, and the regular season champion from each league will go into a mega style tournament where eventually, if we get everyone to pay a bit of money in, they get a massive prize. So hopefully, bit of work on my part, I might actually be able to do this and not look like a total idiot.
But if you're to have the mega tournament now, you're talking about like the following season, like all the winners would go into the one division, so like a promotion sort of thing?
No, so basically what I want to do is I want to do it as, say you do like 20 leagues. So in the 13-game regular season you might have, or 14 games now, we're going to take the top team from all of the leagues. So 20 people will advance to the next stage, and then we'll run off like a playoff style for the remaining 3 weeks. And then the overall winner will get a cash prize for each one. We will finish off each dynasty league anyway, just so they run as regular leagues, and you'll get like a $250 prize for doing your regular league. And then hopefully when we have the 20 leagues, we'll be able to make a massive prize for the overall winner. This first year, I only have 4 leagues competing. So hopefully now I do have a waiting list starting, which already has another 5th league ready to go. But because of just time constraints, we couldn't get the draft off. So hopefully now next year we get a good year in this year. We build a website. We kind of get things cooking that way. And then next off season, we'll go strong, get the rookie drafts in, and maybe get up to 20 and have a fucking full tournament. Oh, sorry, didn't mean to swear.
It's a podcast. You can do it all you like. It's fine.
We'll go for it. But we'll get a full league going, and it'll be a nice, intense tournament for all the fantasy idiots out there, essentially.
Is this international, Dan, or are these mostly Irish-based teams?
International. It's actually mostly US, because Irish people seem to be very, very anti-NFL sometimes, you know yourself. But we do have a few from the UK and a few Irish lads competing as well. But it seems to be mostly US people who are taking it up at the minute. So I'm trying to make it as broad as possible.
And what happens? You're just going to ignore the fact that when it goes into a major competition, you might have Russell Wilson playing against Russell Wilson because they're 20 independent leagues that then come together at the end.
Yeah, it will be independent at that stage. It'll be overall score, essentially. Like it's rare that you've ever seen a draw in fantasy football anyway. But it will be. You will see a lot of Russell Wilsons competing against each other. A lot of Pat Mahomes be playing against each other. But I still think if we go FPL style, you know, total points, you'll get a big enough competition going. And then when we get down to the 2 at the end, we'll give them a bit of a head-to-head game. You know, it won't be proper head-to-head, but still, whoever gets the most points wins, essentially.
It's pretty cool. Now, as we're talking about dynasty dealings and trades, of course. Now, I do have to mention about if you get a new guy come into a dynasty league and they don't know much about fantasy football, and then somebody sends them a woeful trade offer and they accept, and it's usually around draft time. And it's usually a friend of yours that you've already warned off dodgy trade deals. What do you do then when everybody freaks out?
We actually had this arise in my own dynasty league at one stage that Jake happens to be a member of. Jake, being a Giants fan, conned a new owner into giving him Tony for basically nothing. The worst thing about it was, though, he traded up into the first round of the rookie draft to get Tony. And then Tony stayed on the board for another round. He could have drafted him in the next round with his own pick.
No, I missed that. I didn't get him in the second round in the end. Connor talked me out of it, so I had to abandon that. Okay, so we'll move on then. We'll get into it. What we're going to talk about today is our likes and hates of some of these trades that Dan has seen as commissioner of his few leagues now. So today, I think Dara is up first with his likes of one of the trades that we had gotten from Dan.
Yeah, and Dan, thanks for letting us have a look in at the inner sanctum here of some of the trades that have gone on. And I'll be honest, I'm not a big fan of trades in fantasy at all. I'd be very rare to make a trade in any of the leagues that I'm involved in. So I kind of had to go through a few pages to try and find a decent one. I think this was the best one that I could find. So it was Mike Davis and Chris Godwin in return for Austin Eckler and DJ Chark. And I liked it because I'm quite high on Mike Davis this year with the Falcons. I think he's going to do quite well. He's good ball catching running back, and I think as well as being able to obviously run the ball, he'll get targeted a bit with Matt Ryan there, especially with Julio Jones gone this year. And Chris Godwin is just getting better each year with the Bucs. The only issue there is you've got the likes of Mike Davis and Antonio Brown there, having to share receptions with him. So I guess I'm just not as high. I do think that's the better end of the trade because I wasn't too high on getting or if receiving DJ Chark in return, especially we talked off air with the likes of Marvin Jones going to be playing in Jacksonville this year now as well.
Fionn, what do you make of Dara's like there?
Well, I think to start off, the two team names are absolutely atrocious. Like, part of fantasy is getting good team names, and they're miserable attempts. You might as well auto-fill them. Yeah, I agree with him. I think always, well, first of all, I agree with him on trades. Like, either you're trying to con somebody else, or if someone accepts your trade, that usually means they think they conned you. So someone always loses a trade. I definitely agree with Dara that it's D. Watterson Sr. in this trade. I don't know if Eckler has that pedigree to stay healthy, and he's basically given away two proven point scorers that are only going to score maybe more points than they did last year compared to what they're expected. So I think Austin Eckler and DJ Chark are two maybe unproven guys for two much more proven guys. I don't know if that value equals out, but it's definitely a nice trade for Miles 357.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I do. I like Mike Davis, and Godwin for me, it's a hard one because the amount of firepower on that team at the minute, but he's still a clearly quality player, and he's gonna get touches and he's gonna get the ball thrown to him. Dan, what did you make of it?
I'd actually kind of go the other way with it a little bit. I kind of prefer getting Austin Eckler in that deal. I just think Eckler is a serious player, and I can only see Herbert going on. I do agree with you, though, that getting the two pieces is better in one way because Mike Davis will be very useful with the Falcons. I saw Gallman sign there during the week, which might be a little bit of an issue for him, but I don't know if Wayne Gallman's really going to dethrone him either. Chris Godwin, it's kind of annoying with the three receivers, and Bruce Arians is blowing smoke up Antonio Brown today as well, saying that he's as good as he was 4 or 5 years ago. So we'll see what BA actually means by that, because he's known to embellish a few facts every now and then. But the DJ Chark side of this trade is, I don't want DJ Chark. I agree with Dara. I think DJ Chark is done. He's nothing, and it's a rookie quarterback essentially.
Yeah, true. Who do we have up next there, Dara?
I think we're going to go and have a look at. We're going to have a look at yours, Jake, actually, on this one. So, Jake, why don't you talk us through this trade and why you like it?
So for me, I like D. Waterson's side of this one. I like Aaron Jones, and I love Mike Thomas, even though he can't stay healthy and he is out until probably week 6 or 7 this year. But I think the drop off between Dalvin Cook, and I know Dalvin Cook is on he's basically the running back of the Vikings, and it's not really going to change much. But I still think you're getting a lot of firepower on Aaron Jones. And once Mike Thomas comes back from injury, he's going to be healthy, and he's going to have James Winston, who we know he can throw a ball far. Mike Thomas is quite good at catching them. So I think that's just I feel like D. Waterson got the upper hand in this trade. Dara?
Yeah, I agree with you. And because of the type of game that we're talking about here with Dynasty, this is long term as well. So I know you're talking about Michael Thomas only being out for a couple of weeks at the start of this season, but he's going to be there next season and the season after with that too. So you do get, I think there's a long-term upside of getting Michael Thomas in that trade. And like you were saying there, the Aaron Jones, Dalvin Cook sort of, drop down. There is a drop down, obviously, because Dalvin Cook is probably the offense apart from, because you have Kirk Cousins to deal with trying to throw footballs in Minnesota. So Aaron Jones, I know he might share a little the reps a little more with AJ Dillon this year, but I still think he still will get a lot of touches and probably score a lot of touchdowns.
Fionn, what do you think?
Yeah, I think this is where we see the wrinkle of the dynasty leagues come into it, where it is that long term, like you said, because not only is obviously Dalvin Cook's a great running back with Kirk Cousins at quarterback, so he's going to see touches, and that offense probably won't change much. But Aaron Jones obviously has Aaron Rodgers, but for how long? And so that might develop as a couple of seasons go past. Michael Thomas as well, in a standard league, you probably wouldn't want Michael Thomas. Obviously, there's no guarantee how many games he plays this season, but long term, I suspect he's going to come back to at least close to where he was. And if he does, that's good value. And I think it makes sense to throw him in as a sweetener for Dalvin Cook, where you aren't going to lose a whole lot of value for your team this season. So you can afford to give him away long term, but also definitely sweetens the pot for D. Waterson Sr. in terms of letting a stud back like Dalvin Cook go. So I think this is pretty much the closest trade of parity that we've seen in all of the examples that we were given to choose from. I like this one as well, I have to say.
Dan, what's your take on it? Did the chat go mad when this happened, or what was the story?
I actually think Miles there, he traded away basically every pick and traded every player he had at stages. So I'm not even sure Michael Thomas is still on his roster. But I do agree with you guys 100% that this is probably the most balanced trade you could have. With running backs in Dynasty, they have such a short shelf life that you would remember players like David Johnson 3 years ago would have been really high picks, and now David Johnson's nothing. So with running backs, you always have to be a little bit wary. They could just be gone. But Aaron Jones and Dalvin Cook, I think they're similar age. I think they're kind of similar parts of their career. They're both on second contracts at this stage. So the Michael Thomas sweetener is very, very good. But like you say, Michael Thomas, he could be back in 2 years. Like Fionn says, redraft, it's a little bit dodgy this year, but Dynasty, I still think he's a great player as well.
Yeah, I think it's a great pickup, actually. I thought, personally, I think if he comes back in any way, shape, or form, like he was or can be, he could be a league winner for a lot of people, So, Dara, I think, if I'm not wrong, it's Fionn's likes this time. So, Fionn, walk us through why you picked this trade.
Yeah, so Devin Kreider obviously gets Amari Cooper and Jamal Williams, and that's gone. The other way is Trey Sermon, AJ Dillon, and a 2022 third-round pick. I really like this for Devin. I think this is a great value for him. I'm not really sure I agree that Tucson Tiehards got good value for this. Trey Sermon and AJ Dillon aren't going to be stud backs. I know a third-round pick is pretty high in this fantasy when you listen to Dan and he tells you how many picks they go through. But Amari Cooper, as much as I don't like the Cowboys, if they are going to have a stud wide receiver, I think it is him. CeeDee Lamb is obviously still growing into the role, so I suspect he'll get more targets this season, but I don't think he'll surpass Amari Cooper as the number one wide receiver. So that was my takeaway from that trade, was that Amari Cooper is a number one wide receiver, and going back the other way, didn't really give any immediate value.
Yeah, I agree with you as well. I as much as I don't like Amari Cooper for being on the Cowboys, and I also don't like him because I did drop him years ago when I first started playing fantasy football, and Dan did also pick him up right after me, and then he performed excellently. But I do think Devin Kreider wins this trade for me as well. I think Amari Cooper, being that receiver that he is, being on a team with that can score a lot of points and will have to with that defense, I think that trade makes it worthwhile. What about you there?
I don't know. I'm kind of on the opposite side of things here. I think Devin might be getting a little short end of the stick here because effectively, you are getting a starting caliber, really good wide receiver, but you're getting a backup running back in Jamal Williams in Detroit, and a team that won't run the ball an awful lot because they'll probably find themselves behind in games a lot this season, and probably for a couple of seasons in the future too, because DeAndre Swift is going to be the number one running back there, and if they are going to do any run plays, I'm sure he'll be there. So it'd be minimal touches, I think, for Jamal Williams. And Trey Sermon, I pay a lot of attention to the NFC West, obviously, and the 49ers really like him. There's a chance that he may start getting a lot of reps maybe halfway through the season when he's a little more comfortable in the scheme, especially with Raheem Mostert's injury history. It could be sooner. AJ Dillon as well, I think you get a step up in reps this year behind Aaron Jones, and you get a third pick as well for that too. I think that Tucson actually gets the better end of this deal.
Dan, what do you make?
With this one, I really don't know which side to go with because there's so many question marks everywhere. I can hear what you guys are saying about Amari Cooper, but I'm just all on the CD train this year. I think CD Lamb's going to explode in the league this year. I think second-year wide receivers are just targets because the chances of them actually breaking out is immense. But if you watch the last Hard Knocks, Amari Cooper was gearing me up for some serious stuff, but every time you watch Hard Knocks, you always draft those players too high. So I wouldn't be too worried about it. Trey Sermon is just a massive question to me because Raheem Mostert is so good, but he just cannot stay healthy. He's just never healthy for a full season. So if we see Trey Sermon in the second half of this year, he could take that job. And you know what a Shanahan running system is. It's a lot of points for fantasy players. And I actually bypassed Trey Sermon in my own rookie draft for Rondale Moore of the Cardinals, and I regret it a lot.
Is that a homer pick, was it then?
Oh, 100% a homer pick, but I had to do it. Like it's a whole. I hate myself.
Okay, so that is all our likes and hate. Our likes we haven't got so far onto our hates yet. So next up, we do have our hates to trades that we weren't so much a fan of. And first up is Dara's hates.
Yeah, this one I was not a fan of. So a 2021 and a 2022 first and J.K. Dobbins in return for DeAndre Swift, a 2022 second and a 2021 third. So I think we are the Knights of Najee. I think he's been robbed here. 2 first and J.K. Dobbins, you're losing.
You're reading it wrong. You're forgetting that it's a first dynasty. So that's the 2021 21st round pick and on the other side is the 27th round pick. So there's not 2 firsts in the trade.
But there is. Oh no, that's 21st. Sorry, I did read that wrong. Yeah. Sorry, my apologies.
I did the same thing when I read it the first time. Yeah. The old 21-21 makes you read first.
Yeah, first. So still, it doesn't change my mindset. I think you have got robbed here. I think J.K. Dobbins has such a better upside, and you're still getting a first in 2022 anyway. For that, and all you had to give up was a 27th round, a 3rd round, and DeAndre Swift. Again, going back to my Jamal Williams reasoning for the Detroit Lions and a team that will be behind in a lot of games this coming season, so probably won't be running the ball as much as some fancy owners would like.
I think it's kind of, I presume that trade was made before the injury, was it?
I think these guys are still actually drafting, but I think it was after the Dobbins injury. That's why we don't have actual players for these picks yet. The 27th round, but like a 27th round pick is going to be a nobody. Like you're looking at like you're in Keel Harry's who aren't going to do anything. But yeah, I think that the J.K. Dobbins injury had actually happened at this stage, but the guys just drafted him so high for the potential next year, essentially.
Oh yeah, Fionn, what do you make of it?
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, like Dara mentioned, DeAndre Swift is not in an inherently running system with the Lions, and especially with a poor game record, you're not going to rely on your run too heavily in a lot of games. Whereas J.K. Dobbins is in the opposite scenario. The Ravens have been the top running team for the last 2 seasons in a row. Sure, again, if it was a single season fantasy, you probably would want to try and get rid of J.K. Dobbins. There's not a whole lot of chance I think he even plays a single game in this season. But like you said, you got to look forward. It's an amazing team he's in, and he's primed to get a lot of yards and probably be the number 1 back in the next probably 3-4 years there. So I think I agree with that. I think it's a terrible trade going one way and an excellent robbery going the other way.
The only thing I'd say about playing devil's advocate though on this, it could be end up being a good trade. I think what we see from Saquon Barkley this year will tell a lot because he's coming back from a similar injury this year. So let's just see if he can get anywhere near the heights he was. If he can't, then people might think the same about when J.K. Dobbins comes back, that he won't probably be as explosive as he was before he got injured.
I mean, it's a little tricky as well, not knowing the rosters that the guys have. I mean, if your starting running backs are looking a little bit dodgy, getting in DeAndre Swift, who's a certain number 1 now, with the amount of yards he gets might be questionable. But if he's your best option for a guaranteed starter week in, week out, that's not necessarily that bad a trade. But on the face of it, as it stands now, value for value, I think there's a clear winner there.
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement. I think now that we move on, who do we have next up in the line? With DeAndre swiftly move on to my picks.
Jake, we're going to go with your hate right now for this one.
Okay, so
Jesus, it's massive
trade. Yeah, it's a big trade now. I do like, obviously you have to like Davante Adams because he is Davante Adams. He's probably the top 3 wide receiver in the league at the minute. He's got a quarterback with Aaron Rodgers with him. But why I didn't like this trade was how long, if you mentioned earlier, how long you're going to have Aaron Rodgers on your team for. I like Robbie Anderson. I really like Laviska Shenault, and I definitely like a 2022 first and second. And I don't really care all that much about Gerald Everett. That's my reasons for it. Dara, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you on the longevity issue of that. The thing is, if Aaron Rodgers leaves, Davante Adams, I think, will probably leave as well. So you're kind of throwing that up in the air to see where he's going to land. So, he might not be in Green Bay, so he might not have to deal with, trying to catch errant passes by Jordan Love. Instead, he might be trying to catch errant passes by Derek Carr or, Drew Lock or Teddy Bridgewater. We don't know where he's going to go next season. So, you're sort of basing it on that. But I think, the quality player that he is going to garner a lot of attention, and you're going to have to give up a sizable amount because he is a first round pick. So, first and a second next year. Robbie Anderson is a good receiver. He was the top receiver in Carolina last year. I think he'll continue to be that this year, especially, linking up with Sam Darnold again. So yeah, we'll see. But yeah, it's not. I wouldn't class it as a hate. It's just a really, really big question mark, because if Davante Adams goes somewhere where he's not going to be able to be, the type of player that he has been with Aaron Rodgers, then this trade could look quite silly quite quick.
Fionn?
Yeah, this is another legacy draft kind of wrinkle in that, again, we have immediate value going one direction in Davante Adams. He's going to score plenty of points this season, and maybe not necessarily immediate value going back, but great future value in terms of a first and second round pick. So you have your pick out of the first 2 rounds. Robbie Anderson should be fine, depending on how his quarterback plays, may end up scoring some nice points. And again, Laviscus Chenault is on the Jaguars, right? I'm not real familiar with him. Is that right?
Yep.
So again, as Trevor Lawrence tends to develop, and we have heard that he is developing well in camp and should play all of this season, certainly, and you would expect him to get better over the next couple of seasons. So again, if he becomes a number one target and doesn't get traded, he will have massive value in the future, but not necessarily this season. Rookie quarterbacks are always a little bit dodgy. So yeah, again, like there, I don't know if I hate this trade, but it's definitely question marks on both sides, like you already mentioned.
Dan, what do you make of it?
Yeah, I actually hadn't really thought much about the Devontae Adams kind of expiration date. It's only when you guys brought it up there that kind of did raise a few questions for me. I do actually agree that I would prefer to have Robbie Anderson, Chenault, and the picks. Adams will be great this year, and he will probably be good even with Jordan Love, but will he be amazing when he only has Jordan Love and not Aaron Rodgers? Because I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm not betting on Jordan Love being any way good at all.
Oh God!
So,
No.
and then Gerald Everett's a throwaway. But if you're going to win it this year and you're going to try and win your league this year, having Adams is an easy choice.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think now we'll quickly move on to Fion's. It's probably the worst one, so we might not spend a lot of time on it now.
Yeah, for me, I mean,
it's pretty
deadly names at least. But Herbert over Fields for me is 100%. So I don't know why you would ever get rid of Herbert unless you had too many quarterbacks. I don't know why you'd want Justin Fields unless it is a super flex league where you maybe want his legs a little bit more. But I just think Justin Fields being a rookie, Justin Herbert having a year of experience. I said on other episodes, I'm not sure he necessarily keeps it up as much as last season, but I always take a known entity over an unknown entity. And I'm not even sure who Terrence Marshall is. I looked him up on Air App. I couldn't find him. I don't know sure who he is.
Rookie wide receiver with the Panthers.
Okay, well then the Panthers. So he's basically another null. So you eventually sent 2 zeros for Justin Herbert. So I hate that trade, I have to say.
Dan, what do you make of it?
I like Justin Fields. I think Fion's giving a harder rap there.
He's just unproven, Dan. Like, what has he done? He's like Trevor Lawrence. Everyone putting him in the Hall of Fame before he even threw a pass against the starting defense yet.
Yeah, but I love Kyler Murray, so if you give me a quarterback that can run, I'm all for it. But Justin Herbert has that hair, you know. I don't think I can trade that hair away.
He had that hair.
True.
He could have, so now you can trade it.
Sarah, quickly, what do you make of it?
Oh, it's kind of, you're kind of trying to bet. These are future trades, these are for sure. And like, yes, Herbert had a great season last year. You know, is he still going to put up the same numbers this year? You know, only time will tell. Justin Fields, same thing. You know, he has a lot of hype. There's a lot, like we've talked about it with the guys on the Bear Show. There's a lot of pressure on those shoulders. Will he be able to, you know, stand up to that pressure and perform at such a high level? We don't know. Terrence Marshall, there's a lot of good things coming out of Panthers camp about him. This season may not be the year, but the next one and the year after that. So that's why I'm saying these are future picks. So they could end up being good ones. You know, Justin Fields and Terrence Marshall together could rip up the league. And then you'll be looking back at this trade thinking, best thing I've ever done. Then again, they may backfire. We don't know.
I think Glory Hole wins this one by a mile because Justin Herbert, I just think, is fantastic. And he's got a lot of firepower on that team. So I think he wins it by a country mile. But I think that's where we wrap up today's show. Dan, thanks so much for coming on. If we want to get in touch with you again, how would we do so?
If you just drop me an email to supermegaultimateleague@gmail.com. That's very easy to remember. It rolls right off the tongue.
That is perfect. And if you want to look us up again, it is Under Center Pod on Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, Spotify, YouTube. You can find us literally everywhere. That's all the show we have for you today. Fionn, Dara, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jake.